Welcome to Positive Outcomes, where leaders turn hard-won experience into income, impact, and freedom.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Positive Outcomes. I am super excited. Here is where professionals and leaders, they use their expertise, they use their skills to generate income, impact, and freedom. And of course, I am your host, Dr. Dorine, and this is a time for another amazing show. Today, our guest is Dr. Lizette. Dr. Lizette is a smart rewriting scientist, executive coach. I just love that title, right? I love it. I know we've met so many people in this show, but this is a unique one, and I'm looking forward to it. And a former chief science officer who now serves as a CEO of Trust and Leadership Consulting Coaching, right? With over 20 years of global leadership and scientific experience. She helps senior executives accelerate promotions, make better decisions, and listen to this, make better decisions under pressure. That is key. Make better decisions, listen to this, under pressure, and prevent burnout using neuroscience-backed tools and measurable frameworks. I absolutely love that. Neuroscience-backed tools and measurable framework. Her work has been featured in Fast Company's TEDx with organizations like Philips, GE, CPMG, and UNICEF. Amazing. Totally amazing. She is also the author of Power, Poise, and Presence that was written in 2022. And I can't wait to get it. And I'm sure all of you guys will benefit from this book. Dr. Lizette, I am so excited. You are welcome to Positive Outcomes.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Wow, that was an exceptional introduction.
No, I have to because you bring in like so much talent, a unique skill that, we've not had that in the show. And I'm really looking forward to myself and the audience just to learn about your journey, to grow, and how you can help us also to take the next step in our lives using our expertise and things like that. And that's what we do here. So let's get rolling. Let's start it. You've had such a unique journey. I'll tell you that for sure. From scientist to executive coach. Can you share what first drew you into leadership coaching?
The first thing that drew me into leadership coaching is from my background, I was working in tech and then I decided to get my PhD. And after I got my PhD, I went back to work in corporate. And I decided I didn't want to waste any time getting where I wanted to go because I had been in corporate before. And I'm like, I'm not climbing these ladders. Like, no, I need a shortcut. So I started working with a coach, and it was an amazing journey once I had that exposure, so much so that I ended up getting coaching certified myself, not because I wanted to be a coach, but because I wanted to use the coaching skills at work. I wanted to use them with my team. And with the coaching, I ended up achieving all of the goals that I had set before me. So it was, for me, it was an amazing experience. I got to where I was trying to go. And then I decided, you know what? I could use some of these skills in what I'm doing at work. And then what ended up happening is I started coaching people inside of the company, outside of the company. And then before I knew it, this is what I was doing. And I was really passionate about helping people. And because I was able to climb where I climbed, I now can help other people who were in that same scenario, and especially top leaders
That's
get into
amazing.
those, get to
Yeah,
those
that's amazing.
positions.
So for the audience, she found herself in her, because a lot of us are stuck in our 9 to 5. I know I have been in all the executive roles, but I wasn't fulfilled. But in that path, once you embrace it, you find your purpose and your passion. And what Dr. Lizette is saying here is that in the path of just learning for work, she said she was first learning for work, then she found her passion, and that's super amazing. So how did neuroscience become such a central tool in the way that you work with executives?
Wow. So, in my training at Mayo Clinic, I was exposed to neuroscience. I learned a lot about the anatomy. I learned a lot about biology, about the biological sciences. I learned a lot about the neurochemicals. And I had all of that in the back of my mind. And then as I was learning the coaching profession and going through the training that I was going through, I was exposed to more neuroscience. And it tied back to what I had learned back in graduate school. So I was then able to pair that with my corporate experience because I was in biological sciences. And so I worked a lot with biomarkers, which are things like, so people aren't confused, they're things like heart rate. Your heart rate is a biomarker, right? It tells you if it's elevated when you go to the doctor's office, or your blood pressure, that's another biomarker. When it's elevated, it says something, right? So we have a number of biomarkers ourselves. And so I was able to piece together my corporate experience of working with biomarkers, my graduate experience of neuroscience, and then now my coaching expertise in neuroscience, and bring all of those together to really help people understand that moving forward, avoiding burnout, it's not just a mind job, is a biological job. It's an inside, a lot of the work that I do, it's an inside job so that you can get to that next level that you're trying to get to, or get the promotion that you're trying to go to. A lot of times it's rewiring from the inside out.
Wow. I
Yeah.
love the way you blend like three different aspects of it and put it together. So my mind is telling me like, how do you do this? Like, do you take the tools with you to the executive? Do you have like a team that goes, and while you're training, they check those markers? How does that work?
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's a beautiful question. In our work, so there are a number of assessments that we use and a number of different tools that we use. Now, one of the tools that we use, I'll go ahead and share. It's readily available, right? It's the Aura Ring. Now, many people have either an Aura Ring or a Whoop or even the Apple Watch or a Fitbit, right? They're wearing these things. But for many of us, when I first got I've had this since it first came out, and it was great, right? I used it. I looked at the app. That was nice. And then all of a sudden it became a piece of jewelry. I was like, oh, it really became a piece of jewelry. So in Trust and Leadership, we use this Aura Ring. We teach our clients how to use it because we treat leadership as a sport. And if it's a sport, then you need to know your stats. You need to know what leadership stage you're in. You also need to know your stats, your assessment scores. And so we keep tabs on this because, again, I said it's an inside job. A lot of executive presence, it's an inside job. It's not a lack of skill. You see a lot of people who they're not able to get to that next level. And so what do? I go get my MBA. I got to go get this certification. I got to go get this LinkedIn certification or credential. When in reality, it's not a lack of skill. It is rather a lack of rewiring from the inside out. And so we use tools like the Aura Ring. We teach our clients how to use them. It comes into the space with us. We also have a number of assessments that we use. And both the Aura Ring and the assessments that we use allow us to measure, to benchmark, and also measure growth for our clients. And because we do those things and we do a very deep diagnosis with our clients, quote unquote diagnosis, right? Because we're not
Yeah,
medical doctors, but
exactly.
we do a very deep diagnosis with our clients. We're able to chart out a path and a plan for them. And then we just execute that plan.
That is so deep and that is so amazing. I needed that services when I used to be a chief compliance officer. It would have really helped for me because I'm sure my pressure was dancing all over the place because, as you know, corporate America can be intense.
Yes.
And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, because I remember those days. One day I said, I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do this
I
because
said the same thing.
it was just a lot. So this, I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of our viewers, because this we're targeting leaders and executives on the show, they will definitely benefit from that. And at the end of the show, please, we need your information so they can definitely follow up with you. So now, you have seen leaders I'm sure you've seen leaders in very high stress environment. right? What are some of the common struggles that they face when they are trying to move up the ladder?
Yeah, great question. So I think a lot of the struggles that they face, again, internal, and also not being super clear on their yeses and their nos, right? Some people call this boundaries, but the things that you say yes to strategically need to fit into where you're going. And if they don't fit into where you're going, you need to ask yourself, why am I doing that? And oftentimes because Dorine, or Dr. Dorine, we're so bombarded, we're so full, we're so packed with things to do, something comes on our plate and we just say, yes, okay, we'll take it, right? Because it will help me get to the next thing without really pausing and thinking, where does this fit on my strategic plan for where I'm going? And if it doesn't fit, then do I really need to take that on? Right? Because your yeses are so important. They're so valuable. They are the most valuable thing that you own is your yeses.
Yes.
Because the things that you say no to allow you to say yes to the right strategic things that are going to get you moving forward. And oftentimes, I think the biggest struggle is we're saying yes to so many things. We're saying, oh, I'm going to go get my MBA without really having a plan. Just that's what everyone else does. Or going to get this certification or going to get that course because that's what everyone does. And I need that if I want to move ahead. Well, but do you really? Let's think about that for a minute.
Wow. I'm taking notes. Like I said, why did you show up in my life 5 years ago? You came a little late. The
I'm here
yeses
now.
are so important. And what framework do you use because you have to be, from what I'm hearing, you have to be very intentional in answering the yes and the no, right? Because some people say yes more than they say no. Some people don't know how to say no. How do you navigate those? Because there's bottom lines, there are KPIs, the things that you really need to do, and you feel like, oh, I want to be like my colleague. Oh, they have MBA, they have this, and I have to do this so I can look like them, I can be like them. How do you navigate such things when you're coaching your leadership clients?
So the first thing we do is we have a boundaries assessment within Trust and Leadership. And I love this assessment because it brings up for people things that the clients will say, I didn't even know that could be a boundary, right? It brings that awareness of what am I saying yes and no to, and that you can actually say no to something. And so the first step is just bringing that awareness. That first step in our rewiring process is bringing that awareness to what I like to call your operating system.
Mm,
Your nervous system is your leadership operating system.
mm,
And so we need to figure out, where are you? Are you
mm,
at iOS 14
mm.
or are you at iOS 17? Where are we?
Wow. That is amazing. I am absorbing it and taking notes, and I hope and pray that my audiences are also doing the same. That's why we are here. I'm going to ask you another question. You talked about smart rewriting. That immediately caught my attention, right? What exactly does that really mean? And how does it help executive to break through? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So the smart rewiring is a method that we developed at Trust and Leadership, and it developed out of 10 years of work. And then I came on the scene and brought with my background all of the neuroscience and the biological markers and all these things that I work with. But initially, it starts off with a deep, deep diagnosis. And that diagnosis starts with a number of assessments to bring awareness, that benchmark, to figure out, where is your operating system?
Mm,
Where are you in your leadership level? Because a lot of people at a certain leadership level, even if you're an individual contributor, are operating with an old or outdated playbook. And they're operating with the playbook from their previous level. So we take a deep benchmark and we assess, where are we, so that we can know where do we want to go. And then from there, we partner people with the right coach or the right program. So we have a couple of group programs, and then we work on upgrading people's operating system throughout that program. So there's a little bit of learning that happens. There's a little bit of group work, and you have that accountability within the group. And then the rewiring happens in the program. And midway through the program, we reassess, right? We go back to the benchmarks to see, okay, how far have we moved the needle? Because we don't want simply qualitative results of, oh yeah, this
Mm,
feels good. That's
yeah.
great. I'm glad it feels good. But we want numbers. We want to know how much have we shift your cognitive thinking
Mm-hmm.
into a higher frame of thinking. And we're
Like
able
that.
to measure that. And then from there, we continue on the journey. We may need to revise that action plan that we made, but
Mm-hmm.
we still keep delivering on that plan. And then at the end of the engagement of that group for the year,
Mm-hmm.
then we reassess because again, we want metrics. We want to know not just the qualitative, yeah, I feel good. I got the promotion. That's great. We want to make sure that you're able to expand your nervous system, your leadership operating system to that next level so that you're setting yourself up for the next, whatever that next is for you, whether that's I want to start a business or I want to get to the next level of leadership, or maybe I want to stay here, but I want to dive deeper, right? So we help people maintain that operating system and expand that operating system so that they can be well positioned so that they're healthy at where they are, but they're also healthy moving forward where they're going.
I love that there's some analysis. There's a pre and post. There's a gap analysis taking place. Because sometimes we just come as coaches and consultants, we say, okay, what is it? And we just walk through. But I love the metrics. I love the numbers because numbers speaks volumes, right? So your program is just so amazing because you come in, of course, you do an initial assessment, which is great. You do a gap analysis. The part I love so much is the reassessment and going back and see, hey, did I achieve this goal? What am I changing here? What am I fixing here? And that is an effective program because sometimes programs just keep going, 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 and they don't come back and say, hey, did we meet this gap? If
Mhm,
not, why? How can we reassess it? I absolutely
mhm.
love it. I am learning, and I'm sure a lot of people would definitely use the services going forward. And your experience, in your experience, right? How does brain science I was going to say something about brain science. How does brain science shift the way leaders approach confidence and decision making?
Yeah, beautiful question. So, the way that brain science impacts leaders and how they show up is, again, going back to the biomarkers that I was talking about, the heart rate, the blood pressure. Well, as you show up as a leader, your operating system, your nervous system, one of the things that we don't talk about enough in leadership is that the way you show up impacts everyone else, especially as a leader. So what we know about the nervous system and what we know about brain science, there's these things called mirror neurons. You might have heard of them, right? There's these they were discovered in 1998 or something. And they're these beautiful neurons that essentially allow us to mimic what's going on in front of us, what we're seeing. And so when a leader is showing up regulated, right? They're not reactive, they're not making off the cuff decisions, they're not angry, all of this stuff. They may feel some of these emotions, but they're showing up very regulated, very calm. What ends up happening is their team, their organization regulates to them. And that's really what's happening. And so that's part of the brain science. And you connect that with the executive.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it starts showing up. Like I'll ask, have you ever been in a meeting where it's kind of chaotic or the leader is leading just sort of chaotic meeting and then it just all sort of falls apart and it's all super chaotic? Yeah. Or I'll even ask a coach, you ever get a client in your coaching space who's blah, 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 all over the place and you're kind of feeling all over the place? Again, mirror neurons at work. So
Wow.
we regulate to each other. As
Mhm.
humans, that's what we do. We co-regulate. So the best thing that we can do is try to figure out how can we regulate our nervous systems so that not only we're healthy but we're showing up as that best leader. And when you do that, that's when your executive presence shows up. That's when people go, Lizette, I need this. I need you in my life, right? Because whatever it is that you're doing, that's what I want, right? They see it almost like the candy in the candy store. And that is really the thing that executives want in terms of that executive presence, because then it draws people to you. You become very influential.
That is
And so, but
amazing.
all of that is an inside job. It's not the outside job of, okay, I got to read this book. I've got to do this. I've got to, you know, do this hack. No, 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 no. It's all, we're so smart as humans. We see past that. We see past the hacks, that when you're operating from your true nervous system, people will regulate, co-regulate to that. And then you're that unstoppable leader.
I used to say what you wear is what your team will, like how you show up in the morning, that's what your team will carry. So pretty much what we are learning from Dr. Lizette is that send what you want to receive, send your outcome, show up with your outcome in mind, show up with the goal in mind, show up with your why, show up with what success look like. Because how you show up in that meeting, how you show up in that one-on-one, how you show up, the energy that comes out of you, they will feel it and they'll mirror it right back to you. That's why she uses the word the mirror. Mirror, you see you. What you want to see, that's what you have to send out so you can receive what you see. That is so deep. I just love it. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you did it. You got it.
That is
Preach
super
it.
amazing because being in the world of leadership, honestly, I have been with leaders that they show up really bad. They show up and they want everybody to just quit. And I have to come and re-regulate. Oh no, this is, I have to come and re-regulate the energy that they came out of that meeting with. So this is super amazing. So was there a moment in your career where you personally had to rewrite your own leadership approach?
There was. It was, I think, when I became or grabbed onto the leadership operating, the playbook of the next level was really when it was a complete shift for me. So I went from doing things myself. And again, I had a coach during all of this, right? I went from doing things myself to now I had a team. And then I kept asking myself, does Lizette really need to do this? And so I empowered my team to be able to do the things so that I was more that strategic advisor, that strategic counselor. I served more as a chief technology officer within the business unit so that we were having broader discussions, wider discussions about funding or different research programs or outcomes. But my team, the more and more what I was doing was empowering my team to act in my place in certain areas. Yes, we'd come together as a team. Yes, I led, but I didn't lead by doing. And when I stopped the doing and I started being and leading at that next level, that is when everything really changed for me.
The nugget I get, you're just dishing out all this nugget, is stop the doing. Stop the doing and the being. Stop the doing and the being. Can you just expatiate on just that? I think it's going to benefit someone listening to us right now, because maybe they
Yeah.
are in just the doing. So how can you help someone like that listening to us to transition?
Yeah. So just think of all of the things that you do, even if your listeners are, especially you probably have a lot of parents who are listeners.
Yes.
We do so much for our children. Just think about that. And if you're not a parent, maybe because I love using the personal examples because they translate immediately to work. Even if you're an aunt or an uncle, a lot of times there's the urge to, oh, let me do that for the child because they can't do it, right? But I challenge you to allow them to grow into that, right? Stop doing and start being uncle or aunt or mom or dad. Start being that person who says, you know, carry the groceries into the house, right? I remember this reminds me of a story when my kids were growing up. My son was maybe 7 And my husband had taken him to the grocery store. I hate grocery shopping. My husband had taken him to the grocery store and they were coming back into the house with all of these bags. And so I remember my son, who was 7, carrying, I don't know, 4 bags or something. He's like, "Dad, help, like, help." And so he looks back and he says, "Grow stronger." And so the boy had a decision to make. Either I'm going to drop these bags or I'm going to grow stronger. And so he carried them into the house. Well, fast forward a couple weeks later, and the same sort of scenario is happening, but now it's my daughter who's 4 carrying a couple of bags into the house, and she's yelling for her brother, "Hey, help me with the bags, they're heavy." And so he looks back and he says, "Grow stronger." Our kids can grow stronger. Your employees can grow stronger. They need your guidance. They don't need you to do it for them.
Mm,
Similar to your kids, they don't need you to do it for them. They need your guidance and your support.
I love that. I absolutely love that because, my culture, as you can probably hear from my accent, I am from Cameroon in West Africa. And the cultures are so different here because, here they'll baby the kids and they'll do all of that and all of that. We didn't have that at all, right? They just told us, you're going to do this and you're going to have to do it. You have no options to even ask for help, or it's very different. And so we grew with so much mental tenacity and resilience because we didn't have the bandwidth, or they didn't have the bandwidth to do all of that stuff for us because mom was doing his thing, the kids were doing their thing, that we were just told to do this and they're gone. So this is something that I think all the parents that I hear, I know we were talking leadership, I strongly believe that leaders are built from home. I did one show one time. I said leadership begins at home. If you want your son to be effective tomorrow, and that's what we talk about, inner child healing, childhood trauma, because we didn't pause during that busy. I have 5 kids. And the odd thing you're just saying, I've learned to pause before I answer. And I say, do I do it? What do I say? I talk to myself all the time, and my intuition always have a way of guiding me. But what I've learned today from you is that while I'm pausing, I have to have strategy. I have to give them a tool to work with,
Mhm.
and a good tool that actually makes sense. That is just absolutely amazing. So back to this question. What are the transformations that you have seen? I think you maybe mentioned this before. What are some of the transformations that you have actually seen executive when you go through this program? What is something that has just been like an amazing transformation?
I had an executive this week, so I've been working with her for 9, 10 months now. And when she first came in, she was limiting herself in the exec space because she had a lot of perfectionistic tendencies and was taking a really long time to make decisions. And so this was impacting, and if you imagine that, everyone sees that. And so it impacts your reputation, not only your reputation, but also your ability to deliver and to deliver on time or quickly or whatever that is. So there was a sense of like stuckness. And from where she started, we did the deep dive diagnosis, right? And we carved out a plan. Well, here we are 10 months later, and it is night and day. As we were talking just earlier this week, I had asked, what does it feel like to hear yourself say these things? Because I remember the you who was a perfectionist and couldn't make a decision, couldn't move forward, and was taking more and more and more on her plate. And now she's found time, right? She came to me because she didn't have time on her calendar. And now we freed up so much time. She's writing a book. She's doing the leadership things, but she's doing them far more strategically. And so she's positioned herself beautifully in the exec space as a result of that.
That is so amazing. That is a huge transformation. And that is really something that a lot of leaders, a lot of people struggle with. They want to be so perfect, they want to be so right, and so they end up not having space. Um, we talked about parenting, and believe it or not, it affects you when you come home. your relationship with your spouse, your kids, your family members, you're just tense. So that I think your services is not only going to benefit them in the corporate world, but it's a life strategy that is going to help them as they go out in the world. So for someone that is listening to us right now who feels stuck in middle management, what's the first step that you're going to tell them to accelerate their career?
First step to accelerate your careers, we got to find out where are you? Where are you in your leadership stage? We have a free assessment. I'm happy to give it to your audience. So we have a assessment that helps pinpoint where are you in your leadership stage and what do you need to develop. So the first step is deeply diagnosing where you are so that we can make that plan moving forward. So part of that, then what it does is it brings out a ton of awareness, similar to the Aura Ring, right? It brings me a ton of awareness of like, oh my goodness, that call I had earlier today, I was stressed. My nervous system was super stressed. Wow, maybe I need to go XYZ as a result of that to bring my system back down, right? So being able to have a concrete plan comes from either A, having a lot of data, or a lot of awareness, or a combination of both. And so in our program, we do the both. We do the awareness piece and we do the measurement piece. We bring them together and then we deeply diagnose and put forward a plan that is then mutually agreed on by the client saying, yes, 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 that's right, right? That's exactly what I need help with. And then we'll put forward a plan. So for your audience, for your listeners, what the first thing, the most impactful thing you can do is help develop your awareness. And you can do that with a thought partner, you can do that in journaling, but that awareness is key because often what I tell our clients who come in and perhaps they'll have a consult call with me, and the hardest clients to work with are the ones who don't even have the awareness.
Mm.
And if they don't have that, then that's where we need to start.
Mm-hmm.
We need to start there with the awareness piece because only when you're aware that, yeah, I need help in this particular area, then we can make progress. Then we can measure it. But if you don't have that, you can't even measure it. You're guessing.
Yes, correct. Correct. That's amazing. So what is the next step? Like, where do you go from here? Like, you're doing the coaching, you have a good process in place, you have a good program in place, and you're already talking to executives. So how does your next 5 years look like when you get to this phase?
Yeah, I think the next 5 years looks like right now we're working with a lot of individuals and many people who come to us from corporate. I think in our next evolution of our next 5 years, we're going to be working deeper and deeper with companies to bring our program to employees as a whole so that we can work with them in sprints to help develop their leaders so that they can retain their talent. We can still do the deep diagnosis and we can bring some of our group programs into corporate space so that not only are they building up their next generation of leaders, but they're also solidifying the future of their organization by retaining their talent and by developing their talent into that next level of leadership.
That's amazing. So it's something like the Gallup coaching. What is the framework called?
In TLC, it's the smart rewiring.
For the smarter wiring, yeah, we talked about. So it's something like the Gallup coaching where you can do individual and group and you're offering to. I
Mhm.
am definitely going to recommend that because I like this because it's really more in depth, more specific, and more really, really analytical for people. So as we are wrapping up, how can people contact you to benefit from this amazing services?
You can always find me in the hallways of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great equalizer, whether you're in Dubai or you're in Mexico or the United States, right? So just find me on LinkedIn. I'm Lizette Warner. The website for the company is Trust and Leadership, and I'm happy to give you the link to the leadership assessment that your listeners can use. But otherwise, yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me.
Definitely. I'll reach out and I'll get the link. And please connect with Lizette. Her name is on the screen and she's on LinkedIn and let us benefit from what she's doing. As we are wrapping up, tell us some of the challenges that you face in your journey.
Yeah. I think a lot of the challenges were self-inflicted, were my own, wanting to move forward in a way that I'm someone who has a high tolerance and high resilience, and that can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing because I have such a high resilience, it takes a lot. It really takes a lot to offend me, to impact me, to kind of bring me down. It takes a lot, Dr. Doreen. It really does. My CEO, on the other hand, will be in the same meeting and will finish the meeting and she'll be, I have to go take a walk. I've got to go walk this off. And I will immediately on to the next thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna continue working, right? My resilience is higher, hers is a little lower. All of us have different resilience
Yes,
levels, and it's
it's
beautiful, and it
okay.
is
Yeah,
okay. It is 100% okay.
yeah.
But because mine was so high, I wasn't able to see when my system was stressed. And so that has an impact on your health. So I was overweight. I was struggling to go to sleep. I couldn't get my mind to calm down. I have made 180 degrees change. So
Mm.
I have now lost something like 60 pounds in the
Oh,
past
wow.
3 years. In the past 3 years,
Amazing.
I've lost around 60 pounds. And it was not one big thing. It's been all these little shifts that I've done to get my nervous system regulated, to get my hormones correct, which is also something that we do within we don't do it, but we partner with someone because you are a whole person. And so sometimes to get into that next level of leadership involves not just doing the internal body work, but
Mhm.
sometimes the medical work. And so some of our assessments will point to that of like it will help this client to get, such and such work done. And so we'll bring that to the client. It's their decision to make. We don't do that. But it was really those small steps and all of that. I was following the TLC methodology on everything that I did, right? I did the internal assessments myself. We retake them periodically to see how much have I grown in certain areas. So it was all of that and just making all of these tiny steps with support that's gotten me to where I am today.
That is amazing. So your program actually helped you. And honestly, I am like that. At work, they used to call me Calm Doreen. And I woke up with lupus one day. I wasn't realizing that I was taking, honestly, I was just, they can be shooting a gun somewhere and everybody's jumping and flying. And I'm trying to figure out, oh, okay, well, how can we fix this? And I did not realize, just like what you said, the resilience, it works your system, it works. I didn't even realize that until what you just said right now. And when I went to the doctor's office, they said, you're stressed. I'm like, I'm stressed? Like, how? You know, but they said, yeah, your system, I think you're overtaking things. And this is super just taking me to that place. If I had such an assessment, that would have really helped me out. Okay. As we are rounding up, this has been, I can go on and on because I will bring you, in fact, I can't wait for the comment and we will probably bring you back as we are closing. We always ask people, this is positive outcome. Please give us some life lessons. What are some of the things that you have learned in life and that nugget that we will take from Dr. Lizette going forward?
Yeah. So take this going forward, right? You are the golden goose. You are the golden goose. So take care of you. Take care of you above all things, because when you don't and you take on those things, that's where disease happens. A disease is imbalance in your nervous system. And things like diabetes, lupus, autoimmune diseases, all of these cardiac diseases, that's where disease comes in, is when we're running our systems too hard. It's a little bit like burnout. I call burnout you're brilliant for too long. That's why burnout happens, right? And the same thing can happen to your body. So you are the golden goose. Take care of you.
It's just amazing, Dr. Lizette. We are really honored to have you here. The nuggets have been amazing. And if you're listening to this, and if you're an executive, a business owner, I know we have a lot of small businesses on here listening to us. Please do reach out to her, and I'm sure she is going to be valuable to you. If you're in leadership roles, sometimes we undermine the effect of being a leader and dealing with your team, KPIs and the bottlenecks and everything that happens in corporate America and how it will affect us individually, this is a tool that you can definitely help. So do not hesitate to reach out to Dr. Lizette. Thank you guys so much. I encourage everyone to please share this so that everybody can benefit from this amazing information. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to Positive Outcomes. Follow the show and share this episode to inspire someone's next chapter.